again. Are you so that's about, this next piece is about creating time and space for development planning, right? Because within any business, the better each of your team members gets at performing and developing, the better contribution they make towards the business, the stronger the business gets. So actually that investment in people, creating some time on a regular basis to go back to, right, how are our teams developing, growing and improving, is fundamental to kind of growing the business. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on where it may be these tools, or it may just be actually a development planning conversation, but where that fits for each of you and your teams.
Well, what we were sort of discussing is you know, increasingly we're having these conversations with our teams. It's definitely come in a big way for you, Glenn. We've got people. What we're experiencing at the moment, and this is kind of quite general, but traditionally, FMC has been very good at progressing people by sort of deciding we're going to launch a new product and do a new thing, and then just kind of saying, all right, you've got maybe a touch of capacity, we'll drop that on you, and that's yours now. And then your kind of progression just leaps up, you know, takes a huge step change. You go and you've suddenly got a load more responsibility now. But that we're not been traditionally very good at having mapped out pathways or plans to say, right, you know, this is kind of, these are your steps, this is what your progression on a normal curve will look like over the next 5 years, because the company just hasn't been set up that way, really. We've got a fairly low turnover. We've got a lot of people who've been here for a long time. You know, so we've that kind of structure of progression has not really sat well with FMC, I would say, over the years, or not been a natural fit. We could say that, but it probably wouldn't pan out in practice. So saying it is a bit moot, really. And you know, we're looking at growing now. You know, we've got a plan for growth across the business over the next sort of 3 to 5 years. So I think looking at development in that kind of, through that lens, through that kind of time frame, and being able to plan these things out is now becoming more of a reality. But we're saying that it's a big step change for all of us in how we lead these conversations and what we can legitimately offer people. And I mean, to me, it's kind of exciting, but it's also quite daunting, because it's just such a shift from how we've normally progressed people, really. So it's a good country for us. So,
and it's interesting, Guy, because as you start to have these conversations with your teams, you'll find yourself in conversations that are almost inevitable, which will be, so as you start to talk about development, people get development and progression and promotion confused. So you start talking about development and people go, okay, what's the next job? And it's not that's not necessarily what development is. For some people it will be, but you know, not everybody can become a manager in the organization. There aren't that many roles, right? So actually normalizing the conversation about what development is, and it's about the improvement of skills, it's about increasing, you know, and improving performance. It's about everybody getting better at what they do, and that being supported through development conversations and coaching. So that becomes the way in which people recognize, actually, we're here to do a great job, but we're also here to continually improve and grow our performance and potential. Even if you're still doing the same job in 5 years, you should have this plan to just keep getting better, improving your skills, making a better contribution. Does that make sense? You'll need to go through that a few times with people so that they get it, because people won't automatically just kind of realize that straight away.
I think that conversation does, whether it's promotion or whether it's sort of a pay uplift or something like that, that's the point of friction that we've had and probably will have, I think. You know, this sort of argument saying, yeah, this is great, but if I'm getting better at doing this, I'm becoming more skilled, I'm doing X, Y, and Z, then self-development is all well and good, but of course, if I'm more valuable to the company, where's my pay increase? And that's an area we've again, there's been a point of friction between the desires of the individual and the desires of the company.
Yeah.
But
and
yeah,
that's where it's really important to get, everything. If you think about everything we've gone through over the last few months, the contracting conversation, the strong relationship with your teams, because the job and the pay is one part of it. The other is the relationship with your manager, the relationship with your teams, the satisfaction in your role, working for a great company, great people, and then clear objectives and goals so you can measure the contribution. And if you can align actually the contribution that each of your team members makes is increasing quality, which is increasing value to the business, and you're actually growing the business as a result of that, then it becomes self-fulfilling. The business can afford to pay people more if they're contributing more, and it's actually contributing to growth. And I think that that normalizing that conversation where we say getting better, contributing more, delivering more to the business, so that we notice the value in the business, then it's quite useful, because you can then justify the increase. But if you can't, then it's about finding other ways to recognize and reward people, because it's not just about salary. I know that salary is important, but all the other elements of a job can be equally important for people. Flexibility, recognition, being part of a great culture, having experiences. I know you guys do a lot of that as well. Bringing the teams together. There's things you can do that really help enhance engagement as well.
That's really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it is about bringing it all together, isn't it, rather than just thinking about any individual point. That's good. Yeah, thanks, Guy. What about the other people? What were you thinking around that development perspective?
I was just thinking, because of the changes that we've already implemented within the business for the growth and things that are further afield, the plans that are in place, there's going to be a lot of coaching with people towards those changes and development, because I think it's just general people, but the company will be told something like an announcement, but then people don't always want to ask questions, and they might have some questions. So I think with our regular updates, it's going to be a case of prompting that as well, and just asking for that openness as well, because job security can be more than financial as well. It's understanding. And so I think, there's gonna be a lot of coaching coming in that to open up the scope for development. And like you said, that's not just job changes, that's just might be within your role or just the company as a whole.
Yeah. And I saw I think it was Craig and Tim on Friday, actually. They were telling me about the recent changes. So yeah, I could. There's a lot happening, isn't there, in the business at the moment? And that's as you say, Leanna, that openness so that people can, because the first, I mean, you know this already, right? But whenever there's any change in a business, everybody thinks the same thing. What does this mean for me? It's a natural, automatic response. So having that openness so that people can express that, and you can have the dialogue and talk through it, even if you're uncertain, even if a few of you might be feeling a bit uncertain yourselves, right? But being able to talk it through, process it, and navigate it and figure it out is really important. You have to have that openness in the first place. Yeah. And that's kind of coaching and that side of it, Leanna, which you're absolutely right, the open dialogue. What about the development planning? Have you thought about where that fits with your teams?
I think I think it's just having that in place and something that you can keep on top of is going to be really helpful, and I think it'll be really interesting as well for us to see how that development might change from year to year.
Yeah.
And whether that's independent development or the events and the awards as a product, how they will develop based on the development plans. So I think, yeah, that is going to be really helpful for us to kind of have that as a monitor sheet, I guess.
Yeah. And it's also recognizing that for most people, are keen to make some kind of progress in their roles. It doesn't necessarily mean they need to change position. It just means that they feel like they're getting, better. They're improving, and so it's a two-way street. It's good for you as their manager, because when they get better and improve, they're able to contribute more and make a higher value. They create higher value for the business, and for them it's good because their skills improve. They get a bit of challenge actually engages people more, and they sense their confidence and capability improving. So it's a kind of win-win, but it's creating that space for the conversation so that you can say, right, what are the areas that you're really keen to improve on, and how do I support you to do that through our regular one-to-ones, through maybe a plan. You might need to give them some mentoring. You might need to they might need to go on a course. They might, what I mean. So whatever that takes, supporting and coaching them through that progression increases their engagement, improves the value to the business. So there's no downside. It's just sometimes it's just about going back to actually, are we having those conversations? How do we integrate them into our regular one-to-ones and reviews so that it becomes integral to the way that we lead and manage the teams? Yeah, good. Thanks, Diana. Anyone else? Who else?
What would you do if the person you're managing thinks they're doing 100% capable, they don't need any training? Because I suppose ideally you'd have a conversation with them and say, what areas do you think you need a bit more help with? What areas do you think you try and get them to say, well, I'm not so good at that, so I think but what if they say, no, it's all good, no problems? How do you deal with that?
I'd probably go back to a contracting conversation, Charlotte. And in that contracting conversation, talk about the importance for everyone in the organisation, myself included, right, to identify key areas in my role where I can improve and develop. And it's incumbent on all of us to be open to look at how we can improve, because that helps us upskill and it creates more value for the business. So with that as a frame, to then start to say, well, the areas, and if you're open to do it, to talk about the areas I'm working on explain those, and so I'd really like you to think, perhaps you can't think about it today. Perhaps it's it needs a bit of time, but I'd like you to go away and reflect on this. And next time we meet, just come with a couple of suggestions around areas where you think you may be doing well there, but how, if you think about one of the things I like to kind of bring into conversations is, well, if someone says, well, I'm already performing at the best possible, to say, okay, well, let's look at it through another lens. If you had to think about someone doing the same role as you, but they were doing it at like a world-class level, right? Best in the world. You're the best in the world at doing it. What's the difference between that and where we are today? Just to start to get people to shift their thinking, because if someone thinks, well, I'm doing everything okay, I'm all right, I don't need to do it, I don't need to change, the way to shift that is to give them a new benchmark. So what's the new benchmark? And then when you start to think about that new benchmark, what are the behaviors, what are the attributes, what are the competencies of that person? And then what headroom does that give us then for growth? So there are a couple of suggestions, Charlotte. Is that helpful?
Yeah, no, it is.
Good, thank you. There you go. So world class, Charlotte. That's what we're aiming for. Nothing short of world class. Good. Charlotte, Nick, how about you guys? What were you thinking as your colleagues were talking through that?
So yeah, I think so. We've actually got a new girl starting next week. So I think it's really it was really interesting, like when we had that sort of, when we're doing the role plays back a few months ago. Just I think you're right, really getting to the bottom of what development people want and what we can provide to them to make them as happy as they can be in their role. So I think it's quite it's quite a positive, good thing to be looking forward to, with Leanne and myself and Jess. We've got the new girl starting, so yeah, really to sort of ensure her development in the company. And obviously there's so much to learn. She's coming in quite a hectic period, because obviously she's arriving in the midst of award season. So I think really sort of to hit the ground running, but really make sure, I think sort of the one-to-ones work really, really well, just to make sure that, because I think we can all be guilty of it, when we're so busy, when someone new starts, it's quite hard to always ensure that they get everything they need sort of done, as much, given as much time as possible. But I think, if we can definitely sort of nail that down, I personally think it really affects the way an onboarding sort of thing. So to really work on development, it's really important, isn't it? Because then you sort of feel like you've got the skills set needed to progress in that role, sort of from day dot. Yeah,
and with a new starter, you're right, Charlotte. It's really important that person feels that sense of clarity coming in, and the support from you, from the team around them, that openness to ask questions, to be able to say, I don't know this stuff, and confident to know that they're going to get the support straight away, so that they get up to speed as quickly as possible. So it's really, when you've been in the business a while, you can forget what it's like to be the new person, can't you?
Yeah.
And it can be quite vulnerable. You can feel really vulnerable for a period of time. So providing that support for them and their development is really, really crucial. Yeah, really crucial.
I think it'll be good to have something in place. So when she starts, that is how it is. But then I think, the thing is, it's all exciting, and they're all opportunities, aren't they, to have a new member of the team that fits in really well. So we're really excited. So
yeah, it is exciting. Brings a new energy as well to the team, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that enthusiasm comes in waves, doesn't it? Yeah, very good. They're going to be thrown in right in the deep end, aren't they? With
know.
That's good.
Yeah.
It's a good sink or swim moments. They are. They're great for character building. Excellent. Very good. Thanks, Charlotte. That's good.
So my person that I manage, obviously he's really massively keen to grow and develop, and it's not easy to see how he possibly can. I think he, to the point of, he emailed several people within the company saying, got any suggestions for things that I could do to improve my role in the company. So he's really out there. He wants to do it all. So it's difficult to manage maybe the expectation of how we can really develop and grow. That's a tricky thing. I think maybe, obviously, I can see it out. My team, we call my team. We're definitely going to grow. We're going to get somebody new. So whether that he gets to the point of he gets involved in managing that person, but it's not really. It's a tricky thing. Me and Guy have discussed that part. But yeah, he is really keen to develop and grow. But I think a big part of what he does within the company, I think if he's more invested in the company, if he goes to the awards and goes to the events, I think he'll naturally feel more engaged and more, that his role is developing and growing. I think Charlotte suggested that to him, that he goes to the events and gets involved. So hopefully that will really help. I think his feeling towards growing. So yeah.
I think he wants to go, because I think he is in there. I think he has that investment.
Yeah.
I think it's his personal desire as well. But definitely, I think he's bought in.
Yeah.
I suppose he's bought in, and he's reassurance that
we're bought in.
That's the right thing for him to be doing, I guess.
Yeah. It's interesting because it's not. Sometimes these development conversations are more difficult because there's less opportunity for somebody to grow and expand their responsibilities. And I think it's even in those situations even more important to be coaching them because there aren't that many answers. So you almost want them to keep reflecting on it themselves. And sometimes it's about finding the edges. It's about none of us is a finished article. No, but none of us are perfect, right? We all do great work, and it might be about how that person just sharpens up in some of those key areas. It might be communication across the business. It might be putting in place structure and operations so that it makes the work more consistent, or it might be about streamlining to try and improve efficiency. But revisiting those coaching conversations on a regular basis can be really useful, and recognize that it's a process. So you might find one thing at a time. Okay, let's just work on this one thing for now. When that thing is absolutely sharp as it can be, okay, let's look at other areas where perhaps there's a way that we can contribute, make other people's roles in the business better integrated into the work that we do. How could we do that? And so you just have a series of coaching conversations that surface those edges, just sharpening edges. And sometimes that's what that's useful and valuable for people.
Yeah, it's a good idea. I think me and Guy have spoken about this ongoing thing. So I think we've got a plan in place to see progress, so we can see progression. I think that's the thing. We want to see the progression.
Yeah,
it's difficult. And like I say, it's not just about your money and whatever else. There's other things come into play, but he's really keen in that thing. But like I say, edges is a really good idea to try and make sure that he sharpens up in everything.
Yeah.
Mm.
Just keep asking those questions, Nick. Just keep asking him. Which other when you talk about progress, what does progress look like for you? What's the next area of progress we could be working on?
Yeah.
What else are you noticing that you think you can contribute towards? And all of that is going to come from him, right?
Mm.
And it will just and this whole thing about I always think about this ongoing coaching conversation. So if somebody says in the moment, I'm not sure today, that's absolutely fine. Can I ask you to go away and reflect on it? Just reflect on it, think a bit deeper, maybe talk about it with your partner at home, or talk about it with your friends, or talk about it with someone else in the business, or just have a few conversations, then just come back with a couple of ideas. That's all you need, right? At any point in time, a couple of ideas so that we can really sharpen up and improve. And that is, that's the secret. Those just getting those 1%, 2%, 3% gains, they all start to stack up over time. And our job is just to keep having the conversation, and we'll just keep finding those ways to sharpen up and improve. It's surprising how those incremental conversations can, over time, really make an impact for people. You included, right?
Yeah, that's good.
It's easy, this stuff, isn't it? Super easy. So that's development planning. I have got. I'll quickly share, because this is in your toolkit as well. I don't know how relevant this is here and now, but long term, it might be something as a leadership team that might be useful for you. Okay, so let me just share this piece. So succession planning, usually more important in bigger businesses where you want to start to think about structure and organization. But we've already talked about capability and potential of the team. And then thinking about where are we today and where do we want to be in the future, it can be useful, especially if you're thinking, a growing business that will grow not only in revenue but potentially growing in team and structure. And then having a plan that you can discuss and share helps bridge that gap between where we are today and where we want to be in the future. We talked about development plans, depending on who your teams are, what the plan is for the future. Then you can start to have, succession conversations, but you have to be careful with succession conversations, because if you start to create expectations that you can't meet, it can be more demotivating than motivating. So you have to be really careful with succession conversations. But you certainly can be talking about strength development areas, sharpening the edges, as we've talked about today. You can talk to people about future ambitions, and I think it's right to do so, because at least people are able to articulate it. Even if you can't meet those future ambitions here and now, you never know what's coming in the future. But one of the things that, and I'll show you the tool in a second, is one of the things that can be useful is to map out the key roles in the business, overlay yourselves and your teams against those key roles, and then be thinking about where are we now, where do we want to be in a year from now, where do we want to be 3 years out, and then think, right, what are the actions that need to support that plan as we start to think about succession. So in the toolkit under succession planning, there's this kind of framework, and it's like a really simple tool that just helps you to start to map out the key roles in your business. And then, so you go, this is how the large organizations do it, right? The role, the name of the person, when do they start, and how long have they been in it? And then you'd say, right, based on that, that's who's, someone's in that role now. And then you might say, right, who's ready between, now and in a year's time? And you'd say, right, these are the people that could potentially be successors for that role. And then who might be ready 1 to 3 years out? And you might capture a name or two in there. And then you map out the critical roles in your business. And you say, right, this is who's in the role. These are the roles today. But then we just start to have an eye on, if somebody moved out or moved up, if that person was promoted, who would backfill, who's ready now, or between now and 1 year to backfill that role. And you might only have 3 or 4 positions on here, but it's quite a nice way just to start to think about where you are, where the organisation is, and where your key team members are that might be able to support that progression and growth. As I said, in larger organisations, when I was at 3M, we used to review these every 6 months. So we'd have a full succession planning programme right the way across multiple businesses, and you'd be looking at someone from one division transferring across to another division. You'd have all sorts of names in these boxes, and it was a useful strategic organizational planning process that we used to go through. And this is a simplified version of it for hopefully, more tactical if you wanted to just kind of capture your thoughts around it. May or may not be useful for now, but there's a real link here between development and succession planning for the right people at the right time in the business. Okay, so that's all in your toolkit. As I say, it might not be right here and now, but at least it's there as a tool if you want to review it as a leadership team in future. Okay, last 5 minutes and then we'll wrap up. So key actions from today. We've got kind of the refocusing on coaching, and then we've got the development planning and thinking about using either that approach or at least the conversation about development planning to help improve performance and potential with your teams. So feedback, how's today been? How have you found it?
Really good.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Good. Has everyone got something they can use today?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. Good. I've recorded the session. I'll send you the slides from today's session and a link to today's recording. I'll distribute that out, and then I'll check in with Charlotte Killinch. I was going to say Charlotte K, but that wouldn't help. Just as a final, make sure that you've got everything. But today's our last session. I'll check in with Craig and Tim as well, just to see if there's anything else they want us to cover. But I think we've gone through most of the tools and the assets. It might be useful. I'd love to hear how you get on, and I'm going to be seeing you all, I'm sure, at shows and events over the next few weeks and months anyway. But hopefully you've enjoyed it. I've loved working with you guys. It's been a great few months together. So thanks for your openness. Thanks for your progress and actions. I've really enjoyed it. Thanks for your feedback as well. Sounds like you've all been able to make some progress as well, which is particularly rewarding for me to see that progress that you make. So thank you all so much
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Well, listen, best of luck, everybody, and I will be in touch. You're not going to get rid of me that easily. I look forward to hearing how you're getting on. Oh, one other thing, the private dentistry awards that are coming up, the judging day. Who's running that? Leanna. And Charlotte. What have you got details on the timing for that day yet?
Yes, if you can be with us for 9 a.m.
Yeah,
that'd be cool. We usually start about 9:30. It varies in time, but I'd say around 4 o'clock.
Okay, so it's kind of 9:30 till 4, but be there for 9.
Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. Perfect.
Also, if we're talking awards, I don't think you registered for the industry awards, and I don't think we've had an entry from you, have we?
No, we haven't.
No. Are you going to do that?
Can
Can I contract you to do that, Justin?
Hold
Because
on.
there's a blank space in my sheet.
Is there? Oh.